There was a time, gosh, I don't know how many years ago now, that I used to do a bi-monthly podcast. Just me on my own, nothing fancy. Well, I suppose at the time I thought I was being fancy. And I would do things like a blogosphere update, tell you all what I had been reading, tell you all what I had published recently, and then I would kind of get into the meat of whatever the topic was that I was going to discuss for that podcast. I kind of got away from that. I haven't done podcasting in a while, and then there was a time that I was part of the Anonymate anime podcast with a couple of other anime bloggers, and that was a really good time, but incredibly hard to keep up because of time zone differences, because of technology challenges, and in the end it just fizzled out. I have thought about podcasting every once in a while since then, but nothing really stuck because life is busy, and even finding the time to enjoy your hobbies can be a challenge, much less producing content about your hobbies. So I really got away from podcasting, and I think the last time I ever attempted something like this was when I was playing with FaceRig, because before I knew VTubers were a thing, I was like, oh, I could have an avatar and I could talk to people that way, and that'd be a great way to connect with people. And I think that was probably 2 years ago now. But in any case, I decided that for my kind of end of the year wrap up, I would do a podcast instead of a post. I hope that it doesn't get too rambling, but if it does, you already know to expect that from me, so here we go. And I thought we could just look back at the year together, and I'll go through some of the things that I was thinking and watching, and what my hopes are for next year. So, wow, all right, way back in January 2020, it seems like an entire lifetime ago. Oh, at the time, I was very into a new show called The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. I had just discovered this show at the end of 2019, and moving into 2020, I was still so excited about it, and I just kind of became obsessed with the different media that was used to tell this same story. So what really started as a web novel called Modao Zushi, or the founder of Diabolism, or the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, which is the title I prefer, really spawned so much media. It spawned I'm going to say Chinese anime. I know that's not the word for it, but I cannot pronounce the word for it, so I'm not going to try. At least not right now. And it spawned audio dramas. It spawned a live action drama, which I just adore. And so that's kind of where my obsession headed then into the new year, was just through that. I still think that it is one of the best shows, best anime that I've watched in the last 2 years, and I will link my post about that show and probably about several other pieces of the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation media in this post, so you'll have that. At the beginning of the year, I was still doing a little bit of CMB AMV Saturday, which is a post series that I do on and off, where I take different fan creations. It's really, as the title suggests, I take like fan-made videos and anime music videos, covers, music videos, things like that, and I kind of just spotlight them if I found them to be super awesome and interesting and all that stuff. So that's where I was in January, and then moving into February, I watched Merman in My Tub. I only got halfway through the series. I still haven't finished it yet. I think I got to episode, what was it? I'm going to say that I got to episode 6, and it is total boy love bait. It is, I found it on YouTube one day when I was, you know, going down the YouTube rabbit hole, and there it was. But really, that was the only thing I wrote about in all of February. You know, work was busy in February, and it was just a lot. So that's where I was. And then in March, I watched Given. And Given is now one of my all-time favorite anime. Definitely top 10. I cannot sing its praises highly enough. It spoke to me because of how realistic the characters were. None of them were perfect. They all did regrettable things. Even, it was so hard and heartbreaking for me to watch these, really the two main characters are teenagers. These two teenagers, especially Mafeyu. Am I saying his name right? I don't want to like be disrespectful and say his name wrong, because I'm really taking this very seriously. I'm just not always the best. Mafeyu, yeah. At pronouncing things. So he was just a teenager, and he was a good kid, and he said something that might have triggered something that had consequences that no one could have predicted. And at the end of the day, that's just how life is. It's so heavily contingent upon things that may have even been unintentional, this butterfly effect that just permeates all of our lives. And watching Mafeyu try to process everything that's happening around him, that's happened in his life at this point, trying to watch him let go of a love that didn't fully get the chance to be because it had so much more potential in it, is heart-wrenching. And the music in that song, Sentinel did a great job. The voice actor did such a great job singing the songs. I get emotional thinking about it. So that's really where I was in March. And then I was still, of course, really into the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. So I was, rewatching that, reading about that. I got into the Untamed at that point, which is the drama based on the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, and to this day I am totally obsessed with the live action drama. I know that it kind of eclipsed my love for the anime for a while, but now, just recently in the last month or so, I've really gone back and looked at the anime again and been like, oh, this is fantastic. How did I ever neglect this? But so that's kind of where I was there. And yeah, then the pandemic started and life got a lot harder for a lot of people. And for me, it was hard because I have OCD. And looking back at the start of the pandemic, and I'm going to try not to make this a pandemic podcast. Anyway, sorry, got distracted. That would have been a title for something. Anyway, the truth is that it was really hard at the beginning because of the OCD, and there weren't even that many cases around where I live. It might not have even been in my county yet. It was probably barely in my state when I first started struggling with the OCD. I mean, I always struggled, but when it got worse. And so that's been an ongoing thing for me. As cases rise, as things get worse, as I don't have the mental ability to know what I should be touching, what I shouldn't be touching. I'm scared of my own doorknobs. It's a problem. Using the handles on my sink is a problem. Just all sorts of little things. I worry about touching a chair that something else touched. It's constant. So that's kind of when that started for me and just became hellacious during the course of this year. But, getting back into fandom content, in April, I started did I start it in April? That's a good question. In April, though, I did off topic, I did go back to Mystic Messenger Hell, and I played 707's route, and I wrote about it until like last 2 or 3 days of the route, and then I just fell off the bandwagon with writing it, but I kept playing it. I'm gonna have to go back and write about it just because I need that for completion, because I've been so good about really going through my Mystic Messenger Hell, which I'll link that index as well in this post, because I honestly think it's funny. Like, looking at it as though I didn't write it, I think it's funny, because when you play Mystic Messenger, you kind of are in hell. You're so exhausted. You want to know what's happening so bad. You don't want to miss the chats. You're trying to work or go to school or whatever, but you're up at midnight and 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. So I did that then in March. I also started the 30-day Fandom challenge, which as a whole was supposed to be taken to mean all the fandoms that you are a part of. But for me, I did it with just CQL, which is the Untamed, which is the live action version of the Grandmaster of Magic Cultivation, because as I said, my obsession continued throughout the entirety of this year. And so then it's May. And, you know, we're still in a pandemic. I was still trying to teach at the time. I was finishing college, which was so exciting. After 7 years, I never wanted to go back ever again. And really, just for the entirety of May, I did not participate in a whole lot of fandom generally. Yeah, it was mostly just me writing on the, you know, writing on the slope of the Grandmaster of Magic Cultivation, because was like, it kind of became my comfort media, if you will, which is just a lot, I know, and I'm one of those people that when I love something, I throw myself into it like very hardcore, and I don't have a chill button. But that's where I was, and I even ended up, like I said, in May, translating Wangzan, which is a very important song in the drama. The drama version of it is actually called Wuji, but regardless, I translated that into English. I really enjoy doing things like that. I love translating songs, interpreting songs from like Japanese into the English. And so when I do that, I feel like I can flex some creative writing muscles, but then also kind of get out of my own head while still appreciating like fandom content. So there's that. And moving into June, again, I was still obsessed with that Chinese drama I was telling you about, and I kind of wrote a little piece about censorship, and sexuality and intimacy, because it is a Chinese drama about two men who are in love, and there's a lot of censorship that happens because of that. So I kind of wrote about how I felt it impacted the media, and in my opinion, as controversial as it may be inside of that particular fandom, I think it impacted it in a positive way, because the creators were forced to create something with so much subtlety and intimacy, as opposed to a blunt manifestation of their relationship, and I just love to see it. I'd love to see it. I think it was beautiful. Yeah. And I wrote a post about the Untamed watch order. Again, that drama. So again, still just writing on the high of that drama. This was kind of just a year for the Untamed, really. In July, I wrote fan fiction, because of course I did. I have currently, I believe, don't quote me, the longest running current Harada Chizuru Hakuoki fan fiction on AO3 right now. I am ridiculously and stupidly proud of that, but it's true, because even back, I think it was 2017, I was like, where is all of the Harachi fan fiction? And I made it happen myself. So that's where I am, and I get reviews on it fairly often. It's just very exciting for me. So I do write that periodically. All right, and then I'm still obsessed with Given, of course, so I ended up doing an interpretation of Fuyu no Hanshi, which is the, main song, the kind of culmination song in Given that Mafuyu sings. And when I first saw it, I cried. Like, when I first heard it and saw that, I cried. And when I got to write an English interpretation of it, I really felt connected to it in a new sort of way. So I'm pretty proud of that post, and I will link that as well. At the time, I was having a lot of trouble processing like my anger and my reactions to things, because again, it's 2020 and I just feel like life has gotten so much more real in the course of this year. It's become so much harder to process things. Some of it has really shown you what is important in life, and some of it has just made me so frustrated and sad for humanity. So I wrote about that and processing that and things. My 5-year marriage anniversary with husband was this year, which was exciting. In a normal year, if this was our 5-year anniversary, we might have gone somewhere. Of course, we didn't do that because we've been staying home since March. But maybe next year we will have a do-over. So there's that. I kind of dropped off with my 30-day fandom challenge I mentioned earlier, so I picked that back up again in this month. And then I watched Sailor Moon Crystal for the first time, like with any real intent. And I had thoughts about it, so I'm going to link that post too, because I'm just really curious as to what thoughts you all had on it. It was so different than the 90s anime that I grew up with, and it was really interesting. It was different, but not in a bad way. And yeah, like, do I like it better? That's really the question. So yeah, I started watching Fruits Basket when it came out. The dub did, and the dub has been, well, it's over now, but the dub was delayed significantly because of the situation in the United States. And I totally get that. No blame here from me towards, Funimation or anything like that. Like, I'm just impressed that they kept it going at all, to be honest with you. But it was kind of a big deal for me to have Fruits Basket this year. And I wrote about that, and I'll link the post so I don't have to go into all the details of it. But just having something that gave me such intimate feelings, intimate's the wrong word, that has connotations to it, that gave me such, it just made me feel a lot of cherished things, like they're just very special emotions that this show portrays, and so that I got to feel that along with the characters and watch the things that they go through in this amazing interpretation of the manga that is frankly so much better than the 2001 version. Having that this year was really kind of a godsend for me. It was a way that I could, every time that a new batch of episodes in the dub was released, I just felt like I was getting a little something to tide me over, to keep, powering through the year. Like, here is a handful of beautiful things for you to watch and appreciate and just take a little bit of joy from, because I know you need it. I know that nobody was saying that to me, but that's what it felt like. Every time a new batch of episodes came out, it was like somebody was handing me pretty things and saying, like, look at all these beautiful emotions. I'm going to hand these to you. Keep on going. You're doing great, honey. So that's kind of what I've been doing with that. Yeah. And then in July, with my occupation, as you know, I was a teacher, and the school that I worked for was not great by any means, and they kind of left us all hanging with what was about to happen in the next year, and not just in that way that nobody knew what was going to happen, but in a refusal to talk about it kind of way. Are we going to follow the state guidelines? We don't know kind of way. So yeah. And then we moved into August, and by August I had been let go from my job due to no fault of my own, I must add. What they did was unethical and vaguely illegal when I reported it to the Department of Education in my area. But I was let go because I wanted them to follow proper COVID safety procedures, and they did not want somebody on staff who was going to hold them to it. So they let me know that they would not be renewing my teaching contract a day before it expired, with no notice whatsoever, no time to find a new job, none of that, lost our insurance, all that good stuff. And I'm not bitter about it. The truth is, I would have left had they not taken appropriate action and provided appropriate safety mechanisms. But to see how they were not even willing to talk about it with me after I expressed my concern, it really broke my heart, all things considered. So I struggled after that for a long time, actually. In August, though, fandom-wise, my friend Ginger, who I haven't mentioned on the blog in a long time, but she's still my friend. We still hang out and everything. Well, we don't hang out, but we talk. Anyway, she kind of showed me this like pseudo emo revival going on that I didn't even know about. So I kind of wrote a little bit about that was going on under my nose, and then I found out the Given movie was coming, which was another just big yes, so exciting. We didn't have the release date on Crunchyroll yet. Now we do, but at the time we didn't. I was just excited that it was a thing that was being released for sure at a certain time, because it's going to make its way here eventually, and like I said, it did. I posted a review of the 1986 version of Labyrinth. I say version, the 1986 movie Labyrinth. There are a lot of movies with that title, with David Bowie. And so that was, a fun thing to repurpose from my film analysis class. So yeah, I did that, and that was August. Before I get into September, I really just kind of want to talk about how this year I was off. I was not on my game. I don't think a lot of us were. My blog still saw more views than it ever has because everybody's at home. Just thousands and thousands and thousands of more views. But my engagement really tanked. And a large part of that is because I don't write as much, and also because I didn't interact as much. Because there was this, for the last year and a half, I guess, I don't know, for a while there was just this huge feeling of anxiety inside of me that wouldn't let me respond to comments, as weird as it sounds, wouldn't let me like posts that I was actually reading from other people. And I think it was rooted in this fear of controversy, this fear that I was going to say something wrong, or that I would upset someone accidentally without even knowing it. And I didn't even realize at the time where my anxiety was coming from. I just knew that it was there. So only in the last 2 weeks or so, have I kind of let some of that go and started participating more in the WordPress community, and not just lurking, reading from the sidelines and pretending I don't exist. So I'm hopeful that in the next coming year, my own engagement will improve, because I don't have that kind of anxiety holding me as firmly anymore. But now we'll move into September. So in September, I was still struggling through my job loss, and I did not participate in anything new. I kept myself firmly in the Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation fandom, and I didn't write about anything, and I didn't watch much, and I just sat, and I mourned the loss of what I felt was my vocation. And then October came, and I found this really cool place to be. John Spencer's Discord server, which has really just become this fun, chill place to hang out with other people in the anime community. It's different than Twitter. It's got a bunch of different channels for talking about different things, and I just like to hang out there. And they do anime music quiz game nights, and I think they're doing Dungeons and Dragons, which is amazing, and I'm low-key, high-key jealous of people that play that, because I have not played Dungeons and Dragons in years, but it's so fun. And just getting into that was, I think, a good thing for me. And I, like I said, I'm a very anxious person, and I like to kind of control the media that I consume and the places that I hang out online. And so I like his Discord server in part because it is a very safer workplace to be. And I appreciate that so much. I don't want to be in a place where I'm going to have to worry about what comes up or what I'm going to see, or I like that feeling of security, knowing that people are expected to be kind and civil, which is another, rule that the server has, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm not anticipating that people are just going to be outright cruel to me, but there's a lot of people on the server I don't know. I really only interact with the people that I do know or have come to know, but it's just nice to have those fail-safes in place and be in a place that I feel like I can be safe. So safe and comfortable, really, are the big ones. But in his Discord server, he did an event, a spooky storyteller event for Halloween. Only 3 of us did it. John did it, Scott from Mechanical Anime Reviews did it, and I did it. And I basically wrote a whole novella in like 3 days. And I'm not exaggerating. It was like, more than, gosh, I don't even know how many thousands of words anymore. And I called it A Sheen Like Fire in the Presence of Smoke because it was based on a scenario from English Eerie. I guess I'll link that too. But it really got me sparked into writing again, which is something that I hadn't done in a while. I hadn't written anything. I had hardly written fan fiction this year, and besides fan fiction, I really didn't write anything at all in such a long time. That wasn't, just blog content. So like fiction wise, I hadn't been writing, and this really got me back into it and kind of started me up with just exploring that again. So I've been doing that, on and off, and I have an author's Twitter now, and I just keep that open to me. It's something that I've always loved writing, but fiction writing, but I kind of just never did anymore. And so getting back into that, I think, was a positive thing for me. So yeah. And I also started writing more fan fiction again, and I started having weird dreams because I think the pandemic was just finally getting to all of us. And then I started watching something new. Finally, I started watching something new. I started watching Scumbag System, which is, I'm so sorry to tell you this. It's based on a web novel from the same writer as Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation, but I had fun with it. I didn't like it nearly as much, like not even a fraction of as much, but I had fun with it, and it was something to watch as each episode was released on YouTube every week. And the 3D animation was not very good, and it was just a good time. It was just a lighthearted, funny, good time. Not a masterpiece by any means, but I'll definitely watch the second season when it comes out. So I started blogging about that. And yeah, so we're rapidly coming upon the end of the year here. November, just last month. So in November, in my real life, some health issues that I had been having off and on the entire year that I'm not really going to get super into kind of became more noticeable and more problematic, and I ended up having to go to the doctor about them and some such things, and I will get into more about that this month because that's when things really took a turn, but that's where I was emotionally and physically in my real life in November. But in my fandom life, in my blogging and anime watching experiences, I was still watching Fruits Basket, still waiting on the dub, which was, hopelessly behind the sub for obvious reasons. But I wrote about how meaningful it was for me to have something, soft and quiet that I could watch and appreciate and look forward to. Kind of like I explained before, it was just as though I was being offered these good things in small doses as an encouragement to keep on keeping on, and like, you're doing so well, honey, here is some more Fruits Basket for you, kind of thing. But really, that was it. And then in December, I got my head out of my butt when it came to blogging, and I decided, you miss this. You miss honest engagement with people, and you don't need to be scared of the things I kind of already mentioned I was scared of. So I got back into it more, and with mixed results, honestly, because I spent a good deal of time powering through a couple things, reviewing some things, and then they got very, very little engagement. And I remember being so distraught is not the right word, just kind of disheartened about it, because there was a time when a good post of mine, like a good number of likes, for example, on a post would be like a minimum 11, and it was like these posts that I had spent so long on would get like 4 likes, and I was like, oh, great. Which again, I can't say too much about, because I've been lurking on WordPress forever, reading stuff and skittling away and not, leaving any sort of thing that I was there, but it's just, brains are weird. So but I'm keeping it up. I'm powering through it. And so the things I did this month include, I wrote a review of Magic Tune Renaissance, which is something that I watched back in like 2017 but never reviewed. It was one of the few things that I watched as it was released. I found it after a couple of episodes were already out, marathoned those, and then when it came to watching it weekly, I was so excited to have something to watch. And Magic Tune Renaissance is not the world's best anime. It's not even the world's best shoujo, but it is very stereotypical of the shoujo genre, and so that's kind of, what I wrote about, is why I liked it. Like, it was just this girly, sparkly, reverse harem, artist idol boy thing that I really enjoyed. It was such a fun thing for me to have when I was watching it, and the main love interest is a singer, and his voice just, I don't know why, to this day it speaks to me. Well, I mean, I kind of know why, but I wrote about it, so you can read about it if you want to. I also finally got down some thoughts on Hetalia Axis Powers, and I have not nearly finished Hetalia, but I did want to write about my impressions so far, because I had started watching Hetalia quite some time ago, and then I stopped, and now I started again. So we're gonna keep watching that in little spurts probably. And then I got like super into fan fiction as well, like writing for my fan fiction, because I was getting a lot of engagement with it. And that kind of boosted me into posting more than I would have otherwise. And it's like I said, the reception has been really great, and it's kind of awesome to know that many people are enjoying what you write and your take on certain characters. Like, that I get made fun of for writing fan fiction, like with a couple of people in my friend group, but honestly, like, I enjoy it, and these people who are looking for fandom content enjoy it, and that makes me feel like awesome. So there's that. I was nominated for the, I'm going to try to say this, Korewa Washiti blog award that Pinky made, and so I did that this month. And then I wrote about a show that I was super uncomfortable with at the time of watching, and this review, I will tell you right now, is not great. I didn't have a clue of how to tackle this, and then after publishing it and giving it some distance, I'm like, well, I could have done this so much better. But I did write a post called "Moe Lovers, Please Don't Murder Me," or reflecting on my discomfort around the world's greatest first love, the case of Ritsu Odanera. So, Onodera. Did I say that right? I don't know. Anyway, it is a boy love anime. It is rated TV MA. I watched it, gosh, was it 2019 or 2018? But I watched it. I was highly ashamed of watching it, so I just kind of tucked it away and didn't ever talk about it. But it's one of those things that I was just looking so desperately for content, and I found this, and I was like, well, it's about manga people. It can't hurt. And I had a lot of complicated feelings about it while watching it, but I'm glad that I finally wrote about those feelings. So you can, take a look at that if you are interested in reading about my complicated feelings. And then to finish out the year, with the exception of this podcast, I finally teamed up with Scott again from Mechanical Anime Reviews to do another Sci-Fi and Sparkles collaboration. So Sci-Fi and Sparkles is this thing that we've done in the past The first one we made an anime. It was super fun. I'll link that to you as well, even though that happened in 2019. 2019? Yeah, 2019. And we had been, thinking about doing it again for a while, but we didn't really have any super concrete ideas. And finally, I just took the leap, and I was like, "Hey, Scott, you just want to write a Christmas anime?" And he was like, "Yeah." And so that's what we did. It was a good time. I got to flex some of my amateurish Photoshop skills, making little banners for it, which has been fun since I started learning how to do Photoshop. But I always have a good time writing with Scott. Scott's one of those people that I'm not nervous to talk to, and for me that's a big deal because of the whole anxiety thing, like I said. But engaging with Scott in a fandom way is doesn't make me nervous, and I don't worry that I'm going to say something that offends him, because I don't think that I'm going to. And I just think he is easy to talk to and write with, and he's just nice. So I had a good time with that, and we have plans to do more of these sci-fi and sparkles collaborations in the future. So I hope you look forward to that. So that's really where I've been just this year in my anime exploration, in my fandom exploration, and in December in my personal life, some of those health things that I just mentioned in November got a lot worse, a lot worse. And I've been pretty terrified, and I have, more appointments in January that I have to go to with, specialist stuff, and maybe some outpatient procedures and things like that, and I'm scared to know what's coming. But at the same time, I keep trying to tell myself. For like 3 days in December, I just fell into total despair. I had this horrible feeling that I was going to die, and I could barely function. Like, I mean, when I say barely function, I mean like be under a blanket and not move and just despair. And talking about it is going to make me think about it, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore. But what I will say, though, is that coming out of that, and especially now, I've just come to the realization that whatever is coming is going to come. And instead of thinking about the horrible things that could come, I'm going to think about how this is just, whatever is coming is going to be a step towards me getting help that I need and getting better. Because that's how I need to look at that. So that's kind of where I am now. And so this whole year for a lot of people has just been a year of struggle for one reason or another. It's been a struggle because of COVID. It's been a struggle because, maybe they lost their jobs, or they don't have a stable place to live, or their health is bad because of COVID or otherwise, or, And so for me, I have been so fortunate, and I recognize that even though I lost my job, that my husband can support us, and we're okay. And so really, like it was a hard blow for me and for us, but we're for emotional reasons especially, but we're going to be okay. And really, so my biggest struggle this year has been the health stuff, which kind of only just came in more towards the end of the year, like becoming a real problem. So yeah, I just hope that you're all doing well, that you are taking care of yourselves the best way that you know how, and taking care of others. And for 2021, I'm not going to say I have high hopes, because to be honest with you, I don't have high hopes. I'm not saying things are going to get worse. I'm just saying I'm trying to be realistic about it, and I'm not going to be like, yeah, 2020 is out the door, 2021 in the house, because I just don't see that as being the most practical thing. But I am going to say that I am ready for whatever is going to come. And I think that if we can all just hold on to each other in whatever socially distanced way we can, and keep the faith, keep going no matter how hard it is, I think that everything is going to be okay in the end, whatever comes. And that's what I'm telling myself, and that's what I want to tell you. So for 2021, blog-wise, I'm really hoping to keep posting more. I'm not, at least right now, especially with so many unknowns coming up. I'm, for me personally, I'm not going to hold myself to a schedule, but I am going to try to post more like I did in December than I did in, like November or whatever month, I posted one post, but I'm going to try to keep engaging. Scott and I have plans to do more sci-fi and sparkles collabs, so I think that that'll be really fun, and writing with him is motivating. And I would be super not against collabing with other people, and kind of being more engaged in my own blog and letting people know when I've been reading their blogs, which, hopefully I'll be better at than I had been in this past year and a half. When it's safe to do so again, I want to go to an anime convention, but I don't know when that will be because I don't know what the realistic timeline is on this whole vaccination and everybody deciding it's safe to take it, because people worry a lot about things kind of timeline. But that is something I'd like to do in 2021 if it is safe and advisable. And then I could blog about it. I miss doing, my little bits of cosplay here and there for different conventions. I also plan to post pretty quickly here my review of Cafe Enchanté, which was a ride from start to finish, let me tell you. I was also very fortunate that I was gifted 2 other Otome games that I had really wanted for a while now this year for Christmas. So I will be reviewing Color Malice Unlimited, which, side note, is super exciting because I loved Color Malice, the original. I still think that it holds as possibly the best Otome I have ever played. And yes, Hakuoki Fangirl does say that, and Hakuoki Fangirl also admits that Edo Blossoms and Kyoto Winds were just frankly not as good of games as a lot of the other Otome games I've played, but that's a post for another day. The other game that I plan to review here in the near future is, I'm going to try to say this right, Pio Fiore? Faded Memories, the Mafia Otome. I was gifted both of those for Christmas along with Cafe Enchanté, and I am so excited about reviewing them, and I hope that you look forward to reading about them. And that's really all I have. I don't even know what the next season of anime really looks like. I'm sure I'll check out at some point. I know that I'm excited to watch Attack on Titan, the final season, when the dub comes out, because I'm definitely waiting for the dub. I have said in the past, and I'll say it again, that if a good dub is available to me, I will watch it over a sub 9 times out of 10. And that's where I am. So, what kind of different anime are you guys looking forward to in the next year? What kind of things do you have planned? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your fears, if you feel like sharing them? And, yeah. Oh, to finish up, though, because this is in itself a podcast, I've been thinking about getting back into podcasting as well. I haven't been able to decide if this is something that I just want to do alone for the convenience of it, or if I want to set up a monthly podcast where I have a different selection of guests who can sign up to come on and we talk about a specific subject. I actually made a sign-up sheet for it and came up with a whole bunch of subjects. I'm just not sure if I'm going to follow through with it or not, and time zones are a thing, but it's still something I'm thinking about. So, do you listen to podcasts? Are you listening to me now? If you listen through this whole podcast and you feel brave enough to do it, please type the word cucumber in the comments. The word, again, is cucumber. Put it in the comments or put it in the response to the tweet. And yeah, I'm going to regret saying that because no one's going to type cucumber and I know nobody's going to listen to this. Oh my gosh. And then I'm going to be so sad. No, stop it. Stop it, Shoujo. Okay. All right. So I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for listening to my podcast, and I will be back with more content for you before you know it. Take care. Stay home when you can. Wear a mask if you can't. Wash your hands and stay safe.